I had a teacher at CCA, he was like, if your work is about memory, then why don't you work from memory, from this intuitive place? And it was sort of like this aha moment for me. My name is Maja Ruznic. I'm a painter.
My name is Joshua Hagler. I'm an artist here at the Roswell Artist in Residence program with my fiancée, Maja Ruznic.
The way we go about making our paintings in many ways is the opposite. I start out very intuitively without any research and I arrive at something, whereas Josh does extensive research, and through the process of painting he kind of strips down the architecture of the painting.
But in the sense we're both waiting for something to be revealed to us, right?
Yes.
Like we're not in full control of the situation.
You're moving away from the image of an exact thing, and I kind of start out with the nonsense first. I have like this clear image in my mind of a mood, and the mood is usually connected to a color, and then I just start staining the canvas, putting almost random marks. I like to improvise from the beginning to the end, and I think that allows for really strange forms. When I apply the first layer of colored terp, I keep flipping the canvas around so that not all the drips go in one direction. And where they collide, it creates these darker shapes. And that's when I decide, okay, this could be a head. For example, like in this area right around here, there was already suggested edge of a head, and I went in and sort of darkened those areas to kind of bring what's already there, bring it out. But I'm not 100% sure where exactly her arms will be, where her other leg will be. So I just kind of keep on working on areas that are making sense. Like here, for example, this already looks like a figure, and this looks like the outline of its elbow.
It's almost like you're opening a gate and then they appear, and then you're like, oh, pleased to meet you.
Yes!
And then they introduce themselves.
In best moments, it doesn't feel like I'm doing it. The painting really feels like it's making itself.
I like the way in your work it does kind of feel like you're wandering through a forest, and then from time to time you discover almost like the feeling of finding like a feral cat, you know, that over time gets closer and closer as you try to feed it and it becomes a friend. Your work feels that way.
For me, the greatest pleasure of painting is not knowing what the hell it is for a really long time. That's the thing we both want in our work. We want this sort of image that's falling apart.
I do these studies at a smaller scale, and each one of these smaller pieces are reproduced at a larger scale on the canvas. I completely cover it up, and then I make another painting on top of it and start to strip it away. So somewhere buried in this is a large version of this. There are 3 others of these, and each one of these layers are somewhere in this painting. I guess it's 4 layers deep. But the idea, why I started wanting to dig or whatever, actually was this conceptual idea about excavation, like digging into history, like trying to do something where within history, you're sort of trying to discover something that's forgotten, lost or buried. But within the painting itself, you're going in 2 directions in time at once, both backwards and forwards, and you're showing remnants and artifacts of that process along the way. I have almost this superstitious idea of kind of releasing a spirit from a form.
We're both dealing with memory, both personal and historical.
I was reading the myth of he had many names. The daddy long legs, the white long legs, the bone legs. The white long legs is coming. I flew through the air to bring you the message, but this new kind of man comes walking. So I started to think about the generations of colonialism and thought about my great-great-grandfather Erastus and made him into a long legs. The long legs contains much knowledge in his legs, but no wisdom. For me, the legs are really like what we carry on if we're unconscious, you know, to sort of see yourself in history as a byproduct of colonialism is a way of sort of waking up to that, because if not, then by default you sort of carry on these same colonialist structures. Whiteness in America has always been a device that allows people to divorce themselves from their responsibility to the land or to their history or whatever it may be.
There is this sense that unless you're conscious and awake to it, it does keep spreading. And it reminds me a lot of the violence that I come from former Yugoslavia. I was born in 1983 in Bosnia, and then the war broke out in 1992. So I was 8 years old, or 9 years old at the time. My mom and I and my grandparents, we fled to Slovenia, and that was our first refugee camp experience. I think the figures in my paintings have that sort of pathos, or a lot of them do. And I think in that way, they're all family portraits. I'm painting my family members. But then at the same time, I'm also hoping that they're speaking to a more broad immigrant experience of being adrift and being without a home. I think they're the superheroes of our day.
Now in the world, there's really like a cry for liberation. There's really like, you know, that kind of time's up, really sick and tired of this shit, you know? And to look at yourself, the way that you're perpetuating these same structures. To see oneself kind of as an alien. Do you know what I mean? Like to see oneself as unfamiliar is really very strange. There should always be some kind of doubt in the way that we construct reality.